All right, I'm going to show you how to use the autoclave. The autoclave is for sterilizing things that we can't just spray down with ethanol. For example, this box of tips, it would be enormously laborious to try to spray every single little individual tip inside the box. We probably wouldn't get it completely sterile. Or say you had a beaker full of microcentrifuge tubes and you wanted to make sure they were all completely sterile. The way we do that is we use the autoclave. The autoclave sterilizes things by raising them up to a temperature that kills any microorganisms. We want to make sure we know when things have been properly sterilized, both so that we can tell the difference between sterile and unsterile objects, and also just to confirm that the autoclave cycle worked properly. And the way we do that is with autoclave tape. So the autoclave tape just has these stripes on it. The stripes look light green before they've been heated, and then after they've been heated, they turn dark green. So I'm just going to take a little piece of tape. It just needs to have 1 or 2 stripes on it. Stick it on top of my object. Then I'll wheel out the autoclave. And you really have to press the handle hard. It's kind of finicky, so just squeeze hard and pull up. And you hear the lady with the funny accent saying, "Did you check the water level in the chamber?" And that reminds you to go ahead and pull up the basket inside. This basket already has a few objects in it waiting to be autoclaved. And when you look inside, the water level should just barely come above that metal plate. It shouldn't be very high, but you can see it's just barely covering the plate. And that's just where it should be. So I'm going to set the basket in. If you have a lot of objects, there are actually 2 baskets. We keep another one under the microscope table. You can see that the tape is light green in color. I just set it down in here, and I firmly shut the lid. You kind of have to slam it to get it to shut. And she reminds you again, "Did you check the water level in the chamber?" Well, I did check the water level in the chamber. Now I need to start it. You have to, kind of like your dishwasher, decide what cycle do you want. There are 4 different cycles, 1 for sterilizing liquids, 1 for sterilizing and then keeping warm, 1 for melting and keeping warm, and then this 4th one is the one that we usually use, instrument sterilization. This is for anything that's solid, like microcentrifuge tubes, these micropipette tips, if you had surgical instruments that you wanted to sterilize. And so I just click the select button to go through the cycles. And you can hear her describing the different programs, and for each one it tells you what it does. This one heats up, sterilizes for a while, and then it doesn't hold at a warm temperature, it just cools it back down. It specifies the temperature that it's going to go up to, some other details. I'm going to go over and press the start button. You have to kind of do a long press. It'll start blinking, and then you long press it 1 more time. And you can hear it say the instrument sterilization program is running. You'll hear it lock, and this little light here blinks showing that it's beginning the first stage. And at that point, I can just wheel it back in and come back after it finishes in a few hours. Okay, I've come back now that the autoclave has finished the cycle. I wheel it out and I open it up, and again you have to give it a good hard pull. She's really obsessed with the water level in the chamber, and I pull out a box, and you can see that the color has changed from the light green, this is what it looks like beforehand, to the darker green, and that means that it's sterile. Now, one thing to remember is just having a piece of dark tape on an object doesn't magically mean that it's sterile. I could take this piece of tape that's been through the autoclave and stick it on you, and that doesn't mean that you're sterile. So the important thing to remember is this green piece of tape is basically a promise that everyone in the lab needs to keep, that we're not going to open this unless we're in the sterile biosafety cabinet. If you do happen to just open it up in the middle of the lab, it's not the end of the world, but you need to immediately take off the dark green sterile tape, and you can put a new piece of tape on, send it back through the autoclave. So again, not the end of the world, but this piece of tape is a promise that you're making not to open it unless you're inside the sterile biosafety cabinet. If you happen to forget, again, not a big deal, just send it back through the autoclave.